Well, thank you, Joe, and thank you, Grant, and to the Allen family for organizing today's meetings and tomorrow's meetings. I want to say good morning to all of you, and say that speakers usually begin by saying how pleased we are to be with the audience. But I have to admit that I find it awkward to say I'm pleased to be here, because the reason I'm here is because of the diagnosis of this very rare cancer in my eye, which, as you all have heard repeated many times, I also never heard of until 9 months ago. Didn't know such a thing existed. But learned quickly, and so I truly am pleased to tell you that I was delighted to accept Jo Hunter's call and her invitation to share with you my fellow ocular melanoma survivors, because that's what we are today. We are survivors. You're here with your family members, and we all know that we have to fight for long-term survival. That's our goal. That's why you're here. You want to know what you can do. And that's why my husband, Raymond, and I are pleased to be here with you. We want to thank the Ocular Melanoma Foundation for this terrific conference, designed specifically for those of us who are fighting ocular melanoma. When I was first diagnosed with ocular melanoma, like all of you, my world was rocked. I thought I had met enough challenges in my lifetime to be able to coast into senior citizen status, where life is more like normal. You know, traveling, gardening, writing, tending to our grown children, because, you know, when you have a bunch of kids, even when they grow up, you have to tend to them. And then just thoroughly enjoying our 9 grandchildren, and delightedly, did I hit the... just really thrilled to await our 10th grandchild. I guess I should have known better. I'm no stranger to challenges. As you heard, I had to fight to bring sanity to a state where that was turned upside down actually by 2 hurricanes. We had a second hurricane less than a month later. Hurricanes Katrina and Rita totally destroyed Louisiana's coastline. They were 2 of the most dangerous and largest and destructive hurricanes on U.S. soil, and they happened within less than a month of each other. With a lot of hard work from thousands and thousands of people, Louisiana survived the misery. And the building blocks that I put in place are producing a strong recovery. We have better levees, better schools, better homes, and even a Super Bowl win, no less. Go Saints! If I hadn't had their home rebuilt, we wouldn't have that. It would have been the San Antonio Saints. Something you might not know about is the battle that I had to fight 15 years ago to help my family survive the death of our 19-year-old son. That was a rougher personal challenge with lots of dark days. But relying on our faith, we all managed to survive that. Thankfully, though my life has not always been about the rough passages, I don't want my life to be defined that way, because I've had some pretty special experiences too. I'd say, being one of only 35 currently, there have only been 35 women to serve as governor in the United States. And that gave me membership into a rather exclusive club. So I feel very privileged and special. Through my 24 years of public service, I've had the unique experiences of meeting with presidents, premiers, princes, princesses, popes, emirs, living saints, actors, actresses, and even a dictator. All in all, I think my interesting life has been pretty special. But back to the challenges. I have never experienced anything so upfront and personal, with as many uncertainties as this diagnosis of ocular melanoma. and I suspect that everyone in this room feels the same way. In the immediate hours and days after my diagnosis, I was hungry for information, and I began an intensive research effort. My physician, my ophthalmologist in Lafayette, told me that after a week that I could hold a workshop for the ophthalmologists in the whole southern part of the state, because I already knew more than they knew. Don't you just love the internet, though? It's truly a lifeline. Unfortunately, as you no doubt learned after your own diagnosis, I found out that I had been volunteered into yet another rare, exclusive group. Now, just how special is that? It reminds me of the Groucho Marx line, "I'd rather not be in a club that would have me as a member." Especially this one. But here I am. Here we are. I am a member. And because I benefited from hearing of others' journeys down this road with its treacherous twists and turns, I'm happy to share mine with you. It's hard to believe that my journey began less than a year ago. It was May 31st of last year when I visited my ophthalmologist, intending to schedule cataract surgery, really looking forward to having clearer vision, as so many of my friends had experienced. The pre-op exam turned into a diagnosis of ocular melanoma, a rare and dangerous cancer, I was told immediately, and several doctors, eye specialists and my general doctors, all said that my best chance for survival would be to have my eye enucleated. Now, I never knew such an interesting word, enucleation, existed, or having your eyes removed. If you are here as a patient, our journeys probably have a parallel track. I headed to a cancer center in Houston where more eye tests, x-rays, blood work, a CT scan, and an MRI confirmed the diagnosis. Because my tumor was described as medium-sized, I learned I had choices besides enucleation. I could go with treatment options like plaque radiation or proton beam radiation, treatments which might give me a chance to retain my eye and my vision for some period of time. Since I had been convinced I'd have a better chance at mitigating against future metastasis by having my eye removed, it was suggested I get second and third opinions from other doctors. I went home still anticipating enucleation, thinking it's not that hard to choose between an eye and a life. My family was frightened. And to relieve the worry on their faces and to let them know that I was okay, I asked my grandchildren if they thought that I should get a new brown eye to contrast with my natural blue eye. They collapsed into gales of laughter when I told them I would look just like our state dog, the Catahoula Hound, which has a blue eye of each color. I broke their tension. I told my weepy friends in the legislature that I would preserve my extricated eye in a fancy jar of formaldehyde. That way, when things got rough in Baton Rouge, I would send it for a visit. And I would place it at a prominent place in the state capitol where, with a little label saying, "I'm keeping my eye on you." But the truth is, I could not afford to panic or to feel sorry for myself, and the tears and fear they were projecting was wearing me out. I had to deal with this nightmare as though it were just another problem at work, and with a lot of prayer. So I focused on getting opinions from doctors who treat this melanoma. Soon I learned just how exclusive our club is. There are so few cases, hardly more than 12 or 15 doctors in the whole United States treat ocular melanoma. I consulted with doctors in Memphis and in Boston and began extensive research regarding treatment for this choroidal melanoma of mine until I clearly understood my personal situation. And then it became clear I could not count on enucleation to ensure against metastasis. So therefore, why not consider radiation? I was still hoping a doctor might make this decision for me, but as you have learned, that would not happen. Wow, I had to make the decision. I don't know about you, but for me, choosing my own treatment was the really hard part. I had to do it on my own. I had to choose and be responsible for the consequences. And there were competing forces back and forth, for and against enucleation. I wanted that cancer gone. And after much prayer, I finally decided that I also wanted to keep my eyesight as long as possible. So I chose radiation therapy. I must admit it was far more tolerable than I would ever have imagined to have a piece of metal sewn onto my eyeball. With a patch on my affected eye for a week, I learned how challenging, but not impossible, it is to operate with one eye. After brachytherapy, I went home looking like a red eye special. My vision gradually improved while I spent the next few weeks being extra kind to myself, following doctor's orders like not lifting heavy items, and suddenly you realize that a bag of groceries is heavier than you should probably be lifting. Keeping my head above my heart, I was told to do, which is also harder than you think when some incidental falls onto the floor and your natural instinct is to reach down and swoop it up instead of sitting down and carefully reaching for it. And getting more rest, a true luxury. I took daytime naps for about a month. I had never had that experience in my entire life. After time, my eye no longer looked like a raisinette. It finally looked like a normal eye. The vision in my treated eye improved enough for me to resume driving without scaring myself. And I was checked regularly by my local doctors to ward off unforeseen problems, and something I still do. I thought I had gotten pretty relaxed at dealing with this eye cancer, so I was really surprised to feel pervasive nervousness leading up to my first 6-month checkup. I didn't expect that. I know the odds of reducing these tumors with radiation are very high, but a small percent of patients do not respond well and have to have their eye removed after all. I began to worry if I had chosen the wrong treatment path. My fears were relieved when I learned the tumor shrank and there was no evidence of metastasis. Hallelujah! You know, I passed my first 6-month exams. I still had a bit of swelling in the macula, which affected the clarity of my vision. So I was given a shot with a really long needle, right in my eye. Well, I closed my eyes, but my husband and 3 or 4 of my children were with us, and they almost all fainted right there in the doctor's office. It seems the radiation is doing its intended job as the tumor in my eye continues to shrink. So the main thing I worry about now is if a stray microscopic melanoma cell takes up housekeeping in my liver. And I think a lot of you are either there or anticipating or hoping and praying, whether it does or not. I don't know about you, but I'm not thrilled to learn that this disease is considered an orphan disease. Now that is really an awful thought. It's considered in this as an orphan, to be an orphan, because there are so few cases. And as we heard last night, only about 2,500 cases in the whole United States diagnosed annually. So what happens in that group is maybe half metastasize, the other half sometimes get by. The fact is, though, that so few of us are going through this that we are penalized. You see, it's about money. Most pharmaceutical companies do not consider the return on their investment adequate to support the cost of research and development to cure this dangerous cancer. When you learn there is minimal effort towards seeking a cure, that's when it makes you feel like it's a very lonely world out there. So we rely on organizations such as this one, the Ocular Melanoma Foundation, to put resources into research and development of drugs, to help families pay for prohibitively expensive treatments, and to support all of us who are battling the fear of possible metastasis or confronting its arrival without clear and convincing treatment options. Like you and all cancer survivors, I'll be having semi-annual tests for years to come, and at least annually later on for life, to monitor if mischief is afoot. I hope I'm walking on the lucky side of the street and will never suffer metastasis. And I know those of you who are in my shoes are feeling the same way. But I don't know if that will happen. I'm learning how to live with a Damocles sword hanging over my head, hoping that that single horsehair holding it up will never fray. I cannot help but remind all I need to have regular eye exams that include having eyes dilated. Of course, none of us wants a cancer, but if you happen to get one, you want to know about it as soon as possible because odds of survival are much greater. I deeply appreciate and want to thank the ocular melanoma specialists that I consulted, Dr. Barrett Height and Dr. Matthew Wilson at the Hamilton Eye Clinic at the University of Tennessee, where I received my treatments. Dr. Dan Gombos at the University of Texas's MD Anderson Center, and Dr. Evangelos Dragoudis at Harvard. All these professionals took time to educate me, and they helped me choose my treatment. I'm grateful for the initial diagnosis and the continuing follow-up by my local ophthalmologists, Dr. Leon Lahey, and retina specialist, Dr. Robert Blim. See, I think I'm kind of a curiosity at home. I believe that mine might be the first radiated eye they have treated, because patients they diagnosed, the handful of patients that they diagnosed, had late-stage ocular melanoma and had no choice but to remove their eyes. I appreciate those survivors on Caring Bridge who shared their experience with this particular cancer with me. Some of you may be here. Their very survival, your very survival, gives me hope and encouragement that I too can deal with it and beat it. The theme of this conference is comforting. I am not alone. Because this is such a rare disease, we do feel alone. It's important to support each other and the Ocular Melanoma Foundation so that a cure can be found. All who are now diagnosed and those who will be volunteered into this exclusive club of ours will benefit. I told Dr. Wilson just before my treatment that with my history of doing special jobs and dealing with difficult situations, and now this diagnosis, I was really tired of being so doggone special. He assured me that in his world, I was not special at all, that I was just one of many similar cases his team of caring professionals would try to cure. And that was music to my ears, to be told I was not special there. But a couple of days later, when I donned the pirate's costume my sister sent while I was in treatment, complete with a frilly skirt, pantaloons, boot covers, a hat and wig, a sword, and even a prosthetic hooked hand, to go with the eye patch that I got from the hospital, and I sent him a picture of Patches the Pirate on my iPhone. He decided I was special after all because he'd never treated a pirate before. With all the doctors, with all the materials, all the facts that surround you during diagnosis and treatment, The greatest resource we have is our ability to laugh in the face of cancer, to love those who surround us and lift us up every day and tell us they love us and tell us we're beautiful, to pray fervently, not just for ourselves, but for the researchers who are working on our behalf, and learn to live, to really live the very best life we have possible. We have to do that while we have the chance, whether we have ocular melanoma or not, because we don't know what our fate will be otherwise. And keep your faith strong. God bless all of you, and good luck. Thank you.